Welcome back to the Bejeweled podcast, the podcast that keeps on going and going and going. Well, maybe not forever, even though the game might imply it. I'm Joel, I'm the Episode 121, and I can't believe I can say this after 2 years, but I finally escaped the back rooms.
And I'm Jiozak, and funnily enough, I played a bit of Bejeweled 2 myself with the Steam controller.
Why?
The touchpads are good for mouse usage.
You do you on that one. I hope that your joystick doesn't complain to you after all these sessions.
That's kind of the whole point of these touchpads is being able to use a mouse more comfortably without an actual mouse.
True that. Welcome to episode 41 of the Bejeweled podcast. Jeez, again, the numbers just speak the story. It's been a while. But today is, honestly, topics just come out of nowhere, and today is two particular topics that, honestly, well, it's not really the biggest topics. I dare say that they're quite prominent in this current context that we're in terms of gaming. So that's why we're discussing about it. Today's topics, we're going to be discussing about the Pokemon versus Palworld situation with almost everything being settled to an extent. And also with GTA 6 on the horizon, we will talk about how great expectations almost never deliver. More about that soon. If you guys are hyped for another podcast here on the channel, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for content if you're new. Follow Jiozak on these handles. I may or may not have forgotten to change that back from ninjas. And ring, Game Scout, and ring that bell to find anytime I upload last podcast on the card up here, where I was discussing this year's CTWC with a Game Scout. With that said, are you ready, Jiozak?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, and... boop. Okay, so, well, we're back here again, and right out of the gates, a very, well, would I say controversial? I mean, at first, at the time when it blew up, it definitely felt controversial, but now it's almost like settled back down to, oh, I'm just here.
Yeah.
The Pokemon versus Palworld situation. Now, of course, this drama all started 2 years ago when, let's just say, some company was not happy with the fact that people were ripping off their mechanics.
Yeah. I mean, people like to say that, oh, it's Nintendo. I mean, has Nintendo had some part in the whole, like, legality stuff of this, or has it just been the Pokemon Company / Game Freak that's been involved?
Mostly just Pokemon and Game Freak, because it's the idea that Palworld pretty much ripped off the idea of like throwing spherical-like objects just to capture creatures in order to use them for your own battling. Sounds familiar, and reminiscent of not one but two games at this current era of time, because Palworld decided, hey, I want to be like you too.
And aren't, like, a number of the creature designs in Palworld, like, eerily similar in just, like, even just structure to a lot of, like, pre-existing Pokemon models?
Correct. And that is something I definitely want to dive deep into, going beyond just Pokemon and Palworld in due time. But for now, of course, we'll just quickly start on why was it a big deal at the time. I mean, you think about such a lawsuit, it almost feels as though Pokemon and Game Freak feel, privilege? What's the word I'm thinking of? Entitled to almost a monopoly of this kind of game concept.
Yeah, I mean, creature, battling games, like, they've existed, like, outside of, Pokemon. It's just Pokemon's been the most, successful one. But it has, like, Palworld has been a case of, like, you're flying a little too close to the sun there, Icarus. It just in terms of, yeah, the gameplay structure and creature designs, whereas other, like, creature catchers and like battlers take the idea but still like do their own things with them. It's even if they're kind of like inspired by Pokemon, they still take that like idea and like do more of their own thing with it, which is the best thing you can do when being like inspired by something. I think instead of outright copying something is like taking the core idea and putting your own like twist on it.
Exactly. Now, one thing I told Jazzy to compare it with is the infamous situation when Pokemon Prism and, to an extent, Pokemon Uranium both got a cease and desist by Game Freak to like basically stop development of the game.
Yeah, and I was looking a little bit into this, but could you kind of like elaborate kind of why like you're drawing that like comparison?
Both games were given a cease and desist for the basically being fan games that, like as you said, flew close to the sun. But the interesting thing was that they also involved different typings. Uranium, of course, using the nuclear typing, introducing nuclear typing that was, if I'm not mistaken, very different in terms of mechanics to every other typing. And then when you talk about Pokemon Prism, you talk about a game that involved 3 new typings, which this is going to sound very familiar. One of them being Wind as a typing. And those who are very familiar, why this sounds familiar, that's because the latest game incoming was Pokemon Winds and Waves coming out next year.
Yeah.
Now, of course, right now, as I say it, that definitely has a bigger implications to why probably Pokemon Prism got the cease and desist. All the more, though, it's still quite interesting knowing that we had those situations back then, and now all of a sudden we're dealing with a much bigger scope of lawsuit, per se, with Palworld. And this is not even a case of, oh, I'm just gonna borrow this kind of idea and make my own stuff that is not really part of the game. This is legit just copy and paste to an extent. At least that's what Game Freak is implying with this lawsuit.
And I mean, to be fair, a lot of like the like what people described the game as, like when it was newer, was basically Pokemon but with guns. So yeah, it kind of felt like from the start it was doomed to incite legal troubles.
Yeah, it definitely, as I said, flew close to the sun, and I think we're going to be using that for quite some time for this first part of the podcast. But it just feels as though there's, honestly, in my opinion, there's just some games that unfortunately just got hit very badly than others. I think of all of the fan games and ROM hacks that the community has created over the years, especially those that I played, Pokemon Unbound, Pokemon Insurgents, which in itself also involved, well, okay, Insurgents itself also involved a few new Pokemon, but it was like only like 1 or 2, with the big gist of it being the Delta species, which admittedly is a bit of a ripoff from the TCG series when they had Delta species, where a Pokemon was the same Pokemon, it's just that it was a slightly different design and way different typing. That was the gist of Pokemon Insurgents. When you look at that situation, like how in the world did Prism Uranium get hit, but some games like Insurgents did not?
Yeah. It feels, I mean, in a sense, kind of similar to like what just general Nintendo fan games get hit with, like cease and desists or whatever, but a lot of those, I mean, there is a core underlining factor is that a lot of like those general Nintendo fan games are like paid, or the creators are like expecting some amount of money, or they have like a Patreon or something. I know that's not like a direct comparison, but like I guess in that sense, like general Nintendo fan games, there is more of like a core underlying like common denominator, whereas like yeah, I don't know.
No, I kind of see where you're coming from.
Felt like I was trying to go somewhere with that, but it's like I don't know where I was trying to go.
No, it's fine. All right. I somewhat understand where you're coming from. But yeah, that's definitely rough on a sense. But it's kind of weird because when you look, well, especially from my perspective, who has been around Pokemon ROM hacks for so long, it's like, why do these games affect it and not others? It's like if you're gonna like try to monopolize the idea of that you want to be the only one that captures creatures to use for your own like battling. If you're gonna say one game cannot, why not just say every game cannot? It almost just feels as though Game Freak and Pokemon is just like trying. It's like it's almost like a roulette. It feels like where they're just picking out games that they say, oh, I don't want this. We're going to use that. As I said, like if you're going to imply that you want to have a monopoly, why not just take out everything? So it's a very inconsistent, and that was kind of why a lot of people were blowing up with this kind of situation. It's like, of course, you know the how internet works. It can be some people can be quite extreme with the thoughts when they see this, like, oh, Pokemon is like, oh, bad company for being this kind of way. Unfortunately, that's gonna be the implication straight away when you look at this kind of lawsuit.
Big corporations aren't your friends.
Exactly, and unfortunately, that's pretty much how the work works to an extent where you're gonna have people being like that as soon as you hear a kind of lawsuit. I feel like, unfortunately, that's going to be for almost like for any kind of big thing. It's just going to blow up straight away. But this was a big deal, all the more that Pokemon, which was such a, as you mentioned, a very popular series, it bring out this kind of bombshell to an extent.
Yeah. And if anything, maybe they did it as just like a, I don't know, like a warning shot to like other people who may be wanting to like try and follow in Palworld's footsteps of like, don't try us.
Yeah, that could be a warning shot. A very badly displayed warning shot, IMO though.
Right.
Not the best way to like say, hey, please don't copy us.
Yeah. When did... I'm trying to think... PAL release date. I mean, it had its 1.0 release, like... Or it's getting it, but when did it, like... I guess release in early access, technically. 2021.
So during pandemic times...
Yeah. I remember seeing a lot of people specifically, because I think that was also around the same time that the Steam Deck was out, or the Steam Deck was about to be out, and a lot of people for a while used that as, I don't know, like a bargaining chip or whatever, or just an argument point against, like, the Switch of, oh, the Steam Deck is so much more powerful than the Switch, and a lot of those same people using Palworld as an example of, like, I don't know, like, almost a knock against Pokemon, but it really just came off as, like, okay, you are trying too hard, and it's almost feels like you are like an edgy older brother who doesn't want to play the same games as their younger sibling.
Kind of, actually. I see.
It just gave off that energy to me.
And I could see that energy, to be honest. I quite like that analogy. Especially knowing that. Oh, what was the thought that came?
I only play games with guns in them.
To be fair, that kind of was the dynamic between me and my brothers when it comes to gaming. because I was the platformer guy, and my brothers were both RPG and MMORPG and FPS guys.
Okay.
So I was kind of like the odd one out with most of my three brothers like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to what I wanted to say. It kind of also feels like whenever you look at Palworld having a similar concept but with a very big different dynamic with guns, it's also a bigger implication to an extent that the people behind Palworld are just saying, oh, we don't like your Pokemon concepts, we want to make our own to show what we can do. There's also that unfortunate implication there, thinking that whenever Power came out, they were trying to be better Pokemon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like crap like guns were going to magically improve the formula.
Yeah, but even then, there's always that implication, and you know how social media works.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. It is unfortunate when you think of it on a further extent, but that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to say things will never be the same, but Tupac from the grave might ask me to stop. Changes for those wondering. That's the song I was in referencing. But yeah, that was why I wanted to discuss about this. And when you look at now, back then when it started, the whole debacle between these two, and now where we are at, it's definitely an interesting, like, how to say this, medium that have kind of come towards, but at the same time, we could see more things blow up if both parties may not be able to come to a consensus.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked up the news for those wondering, and apparently there's going to be a hearing on the 1st of October. That's going to be quite late. Very close to some potential release dates. Potentially. And then the big one was the final opinion / verdict that'll be happening on the 9th of November. At least that's the dates that I found. Maybe they will change in due time due to some unforeseen circumstances, but that's the estimate. It's almost like very similar to the GTA 6 situation, I think about it.
Yeah, things could change, especially, when you're dealing with the legal system.
Ugh. I feel like, I don't know, when you talk about games and legals, I mean, of course, the first thing I think all of us will think of when we think of Nintendo legal action, the Nintendo 64 Party 1 situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one they lost legit out.
Yeah, and had to, didn't they just have to pay out, or just, give out free gloves for anyone that, mailed in about that or whatever?
Correct. Well, actually, I think it's more so the fact that any Mario Party 1 copy must also come with a set of gloves, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if they were ever sold, directly with gloves, but I could be mistaken.
Or they could just be secretly giving them Glover for the N64. And no, that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
At least it's not Bubsy 3D.
Oh, jeez. I thought I said a bad game. Yeah,
So that's kind of on my mind because somewhat recently I tried the Bubsy 4D demo, and that is a fun game that'll be on my radar. To play at some
game,
point.
What?
Yeah, Bubsy 4D is actually very good. So, just food for thought. Anyways,
That's good. Oh, actually, continue talking. I might sneeze.
Yeah. So, often with demos, I don't actually fully finish them, but I played enough of the Bubsy 4D demo to know, okay, yeah, this is a game that I know I'm going to enjoy. I just don't want to buy it now because I have other games to play right now. I haven't even rolled credits in Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I've just been slowly chipping away at that.
Nice.
Um,
Just make sure you don't
mhm.
bump into Some Call Me Johnny and talk about it. Just saying. Some Call Me Johnny, shout out to you, man. One of my favorite content creators, I still say to this day.
Yeah, I don't think I fully finished his Wario Land video, but oh wait, no, I did. Yeah, he recently released that, and that was a good video.
Yeah,
So,
it's a fun video, yeah.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, when you think about legal action, like, if they may not have a good time in the past, well, this could be one of those times where this is mostly a stalemate rather than a win-lose situation.
Yeah, it's almost kind of feels that way of like it feels like it's going to be one of those legal battles that just kind of ends unceremoniously with like some agreement to a payment or whatever.
Like what was it? Like what Waluigi does it begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly Waluigi.
Sorry, I had to bring that up. I think actually, anyone would say, because I do want to transit to a bigger point I want to talk about. Is there anything else?
So I'm just trying to remember what begrudgingly Waluigi is. I know that it's a reference to something.
Words on John and the stuff. I believe it was
okay.
A Fortress board.
Gotcha, okay. I was like, it sounds familiar. Maybe it has to do with Claire or the Runaway Guys more broadly.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, any last thoughts before I move on to a bigger implication about this whole situation?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of funny that, like, it felt like the discussion I've seen online, at least, about, Palworld, like, died down for several years, but now because the game is, gonna have its 1.0 release next month, and then, coincidentally, I start hearing about, this stuff again of like, the hearing is gonna be after that. I know it's just kind of funny that, it felt like such a lull for several years, but I mean, people who have kept their finger on the pulse more closely about this topic specifically are probably like, what are you talking about? But just broadly in like gaming discussion online, I haven't really heard as much about Palworld until like more recently. Coincidentally because of its release and also this hearing.
It almost feels as though, I mean, I don't want to like imply by any means, but it almost feels as though that this is becoming more of a lose situation for Nintendo, because it's just more publicity for Palworld if they end up winning and they get what they want.
Yeah, they do have like reputation like that, reputation to lose in that regard.
Yeah, you mentioned 1.0 release. I actually didn't even know it was still in early access for this long until now.
Same, yeah.
That's kind of crazy. I don't know, like, oh great, now there's even bigger, worse implications for, like, it's like, oh, like, we can't make our own games, like, more in early access because people are gonna rag us like that. Oh, jeez, that's just gonna discourage a lot of game developers in that case.
Yeah.
Well, indie game developers, I should clarify.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I also just had the thought of, like, I'm gonna go onto just the general r/gaming subreddit to see if there's anything about Palworld just in general. Because I feel like Reddit would be a place where this would get mentioned, and for some reason I'm just getting nothing about Palworld that's like been posted more recently. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I've been just generally perusing Reddit more for like specific topics and things, because I feel like compared to other social media like Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, where it just feels like a melding pot of like different people from like different, or who are talking about completely different things, it feels more focused.
Yeah.
Not saying that Reddit is better, it's just more focused, and you can see like people just directly talking about things instead of having to like use search parameters or whatever on Blue Sky or Twitter. I do like when specific games have like their own subreddits, which I imagine Palworld has. Yep, they have a a whole subreddit here. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely active. Just scrolling a little bit here, several posts within the past several hours, so I don't know, I found just with specific topics, I've been seeing what people have to say on platforms where you don't have like a 300 character limit.
Yeah.
There's a little more nuance if some subreddits have potentially, overzealous mods.
Oh yeah, nah. And also probably maybe some opinions that may not, stick well with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, a bigger thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that there was actually something I did not tell you before the information-wise before the podcast, because whilst this whole thing blew up 2 years ago, the one thing that I noticed from latest updates is the fact that now Game Freak is kind of just suing Palworld not for game character design, but rather for game mechanics copying.
Yeah, and weren't they trying to like patent that at some point? Like since Palworld like released in early access?
Okay, a patent implication was not what I found actually, but if you manage to find something, do tell.
Yeah, let's see here.
No, I think as he searches, I'll just quickly mention that the bigger thing I want to talk about is the fact that, what was taken away in terms of legal action was the idea that character designs were not necessarily frowned upon. Now, this is huge, especially in the era of AI we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as well when you think about the many other Pokemon games that exist out there that have alternate Pokemon designs, especially a certain Infinite Fusion that has been roaming around for so long. Like, that in and of itself, knowing that Game Freak dropped the statement saying, like, okay, we're not going to bash you upon game character design, instead we're going to bash you on the other thing. That's big. And I feel like for any character designer out there, like, that's huge to an extent. But also, it implies quite a bit that may not all necessarily be positive.
Okay. Yeah, so about the patent, I'm reading a summarized version that someone, funnily enough, posted on Reddit. I'll just kind of more or less read it verbatim here. Nintendo didn't patent summoning characters to fight as a whole. They patented a very specific Pokemon loop, which requires a throw to trigger action, which is as follows. Throws an item, a creature appears, a battle starts, an enemy gets weakened, throw item again, capture succeeds, new creature joins your party. So they patented, I guess, that very specific gameplay loop, or tried to, at least.
Interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can send just the link there to the Reddit post. It's yeah, and I'm only just like very briefly glossed over this one person's summary of it, but that sounds familiar from like when that was a thing that was happening. So it almost feels like they were like trying to do that just to like in relation to this whole Palworld debacle, but the patent, or I don't think they ended up actually getting the patent. Like they proposed it or whatever, and they just didn't get it. So
to be honest, so like, I don't know about you, Jazz, but that definitely sounds very specific on what they are trying to patent, if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, like, game mechanics and systems like that are no strangers to being patented, because I think for a while there, having a little mini game on a loading screen was patented.
That's
it wasn't until
WarioWare.
like yeah. Yeah, it wasn't until like sometime later where games were able to do that again, and it's like, I understand wanting to like protect an IP to an extent, but like also I feel like patenting like whole game mechanics is a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. As I said, I think we both agree when we look at the situations like, wait, what? Why is this a thing now?
Mm-hmm.
I love how that was the general consensus between the two of us as we looked at each other on that front. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
That definitely seems
Also,
a bit overkill.
I don't know why, I've just started scrolling through the patent document itself. There's like several pages where it's just a diagram of a Switch. For some reason.
Interesting.
I guess they really wanted to make sure that it was understood what they were trying to go for, which I guess is what you have to do with a patent, but like, if you're trying to patent a game mechanic or gameplay loop, like, why do you need to show a diagram of a console? if the patent is for something that purely exists within software, I don't know.
You're gonna look at this patent, you're gonna love it. It's my patent. Also buy my Switch.
Right?
Definitely sounds a bit strange.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just legal stuff like this is very funny in some regards.
Yeah. It's like, why? But at the same time, it's like, well, I guess that's what we're living in at this point in time.
Yep.
The era we're living. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. Like, as I said, I implied about this with the fact that Game Freak dropped the idea that we wanted to, like, you know, criticize like the game, like, character development, like the creature development. I mean, that's a big deal when you think about some other games out there that have done similar to Pokemon concepts. It's just that they made their own creatures, like Uranium.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it's like, it's so difficult for Game Freak and Pokemon to be consistent with how they are trying to imply what they're trying to do in terms of monopolizing and what they feel so they have a grasp on as a whole.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel as though they're being consistent. And I know it's difficult to be that, but when you're trying to, weave around trying to say like, okay, fine, we'll let you have this, we'll have you have that, but at the same time, making sure you have stuff that you want to keep. There's gonna be some parties, as I said, like Pokemon Uranium people, that's not gonna be happy with the implications behind it. And I feel like this is just a slap in the face for Uranium to an extent, and maybe some other Pokemon fan games out there that might have got hit just because of new creature development.
Right. It almost feels like they have done this like extra level of legal action towards Palworld just because it got so big, and perhaps Nintendo and the Pokemon Company and Game Freak didn't like that. Because it was painting their IP in like a negative light of, oh, Pokemon, that's just a kiddie game. Or just trying to make it out to be like just lesser and outdated.
I think. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the thought.
I think the bigger thing, I actually had this conversation with a few friends of mine yesterday when I was out for dinner with them. That, one person asked me, like, how come you say English teachers, like, have it rough? I was like, I told them about the idea that, when you think about them grading composition writing or oral, the one issue that they will always face is having the constant ability to judge by ability, not by feeling. And the idea is that they don't grade a paper or a performance in oral just because they feel as though they get this mark, but rather because they deserve the mark. And when you think about people who have marked so many papers, Jalzak, I'm pretty sure you yourself can think of a teacher's perspective. That's going to be a lot of compositions to mark, a lot of tired out moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult.
I have to do like a slight amount of translation of like, oh yeah, a lot of countries like say mark. Here in the States, I think we use the word like grading papers.
Yeah.
of like giving a paper a letter grade or whatever. But yeah, I think like most other countries use the word mark. So that's why it's like, what is he talking about? Oh yeah, slight difference in words.
Dang it, what else is it different in America? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, in all seriousness, comparing that idea of how, grading papers and not by feeling but by ability, comparing that to the Pokemon Palworld situation, it almost feels as though they're just criticizing and trying to sue just because they feel like it, rather than because of an execution factor.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with character design, and Giles, I think you can agree, it's very variable.
Yeah.
Two people could have the similar design by accident, and yet people will still criticize that one copied the other.
Yeah, that's something that I remember from a video that Tom Ska did about like varying degrees of plagiarism, and yeah, one of those is pure coincidence. It could be, oh yeah, these two people made the same thing roughly at the same time, and I think that even happened like during the early days of like the COVID lockdowns. I don't know if you remember the short film that Stephen George.
I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there.
For that year's Coliseum, and it's like eerily similar concept and execution to like someone else's video, and that other person tried to make like a drama video, and Stephen was like, no, like this is what happened. Like things like that can happen. But then there is also just straight up plagiarism.
And it's sad because I feel like because of all the plagiarism idea that has happened, it's almost if the world has become one. It's like a one-way thinking, where in a sense that as soon as they see copying, they immediately assume plagiarism.
Right.
And of course, that's not the best way to go about it because there's coincidences can happen, people. There's no such thing as conspiracy sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and perhaps like someone was maybe a little too inspired about something and like copied something more directly. It there can be a lot of nuance like in that regard. It's just you really have to analyze like or yeah, I don't know. It varies a lot, and that's just kind of what it comes down to, is you really have to analyze like the whole situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just sad that, people sometimes don't want the information fast and quick to them. They don't want to think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just sad knowing that some people just don't want to. They just want the facts straight away, and as soon as they get the facts, they just hamper up on it like a rat to a slice of cheese.
Yeah, and if it happens that information comes out and that what they believed initially was wrong, it almost feels like they start to double down on that in a lot of cases.
Fair, I agree with that.
So, yeah.
Anyways, what were we talking about again? Sorry. Part of me wonders if I went off tangent just now. Well, actually, no, I didn't really. I had a character development situation, but yeah. Here's the thing, though. I feel like there's just that many concepts that you can repeat again and again to the point where it's almost to oblivion. And unfortunately, like sometimes that's just the best thing we could use as a concept for a creature design. Like you think about the many cats that Pokemon have issued out. You think about many dogs that Pokemon have issued out. You can't really say there is like a infinite way of thinking how you want to create a creature, because there's gotta be some resemblance, one way or another, to some other stuff.
Yeah.
I ain't talk about only strictly Pokemon like RPG style. I also talk about like implications like to other games like Fortnite potentially, Mario potentially. There's just no, like as you mentioned, nuance. It's just a case of understanding the situation and making your own proper opinion about it rather than just jumping to conclusions.
Yeah. Let's see.
No, what are you looking up now?
I just looked up Palworld plagiarism just to see.
Any word upon it?
Yeah, I mean, it probably should have been something I looked into like more myself, but yeah, it's like prior. But yeah, if a lot of the creatures that you're making in your game are pretty much just animals, yeah, there's gonna be some amount of just inherent resemblance.
And again, nuance. So, not everything must always be unique.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So that's why it's just saddening knowing that of the situation with all the stuff they had to go back and forth on, and now even though we're finally coming to a consensus this year, I feel like the damage is done in terms of like what Pokemon has been trying to imply all these years.
Yeah, and I mean it hasn't like completely hampered like people's interest in Palworld. I mean, there's still like people playing it, and it's about to get its actual full release, but like, yeah, like as you said, the damage was kind of done already.
Yeah. What?
So,
I mean, even after all of this, like, what can we say? Because, like, even when Generation 10 comes out, it's just going to be the shadow of the idea that whatever creatures may come out on Gen 10, there could be some implication of what was, what they were trying to do this whole time when they put the cease and desist on Prism Uranium with this lawsuit with Palworld. Like, there's going to be a lot of people making opinions about all the stuff. Like, and of course, the tinfoil hat wearers. That's also going to be a thing as well.
right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what people think when those new designs come out.
Hopefully, it will not be as bad as a certain era of Pokemon. Oh boy. You remember Gen 8?
I think I do. What games?
When everyone was so angry at the fact that the Pokedex is not going to be a full Pokedex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we will not have a repeat of that. But it's the internet. We just have to see how they behave.
Right. If anything, like, not just like Pokemon designs, it'll be really interesting to see how everything plays out with Winds and Waves. Like, the fact that those games aren't coming out till next year, when they were announced earlier this year, it's like, okay, they're really taking their time, like, especially with all the Pokemon games that released on the original Switch, and how it felt like just about every single Pokemon game had some amount of controversy. Mostly in terms of, like, performance.
Oh, yeah. It's just funny, though, when you look at now with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 2. Oh my goodness, it runs so smooth now.
Right. It's almost kind of funny of, like, okay, was the Switch actually the bottleneck this whole time? Like, granted, yeah, they could have taken the extra time to, like, optimize those games, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I felt like I was going somewhere with that. It was just really interesting to see the difference between it running on Switch and Switch 2.
Yeah, no, it definitely is very. But I have one question though. Could have they optimized it? Because honestly, when I think about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and the fact there are not one or two but three very big maps, I think they were like kind of bothered at the idea that if they were to redo the entire game in the Switch compatibility, it probably would have taken more like a year or even two to do it again, and they would have delayed it again.
Yeah, like theoretically, yeah, you can always continue to make optimizations with a game, and but that does take time, so it was probably just a case of trying to balance getting it to a point of being good enough to release, but then still many people encountered issues, but then other people like yourself just didn't find or didn't encounter any issues.
I was about to say that.
Is still kind of funny.
I don't know, man. Granted, my old Switch was able to handle all that stuff. I don't know. For those wondering, my Switch is a regular Switch that you would find in 2017 when it first released.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not any thing special. It's not like the Pro version or the Lite version, and yet I still managed to somehow get through the entire game. Although I'll say this, I did encounter a clipping issue, but that was just me messing around.
Yeah. You have the game physical, right?
Yes, I will always collect physical copies.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I feel like excuse me. I feel like I brought up this idea in like a previous podcast where we talked about Scarlet and Violet, but I almost wonder if like a lot of the glitches that people found have to do with perhaps their digital versions running off of like the SD card compared to internal storage or something.
Oh, that also could be. Yeah, that's actually a very good implication because as I say, probably I'm one of the very few who decided, hey, I'm going to do physical because I prefer physical versions of a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't remember offhand, like anyone that had issues what form they had the game on, so
I might have to check
thought.
with Yosh in terms of that because I know he was one that got very heavily affected by the problems. One of which, of course, being the game running at 15 frames per second rather than 30 or 60, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
But I might have to ask him whether he got the game physical or not, because that could also help with that conversation maybe another day.
Yeah, and ask him that, and if he has it digital, does he know if when he has played it, has it been installed on the system storage or SD card? Because you can go into the storage management on the system, and it'll like tell you the file size of the game, but then also how much of the game is on internal versus SD card.
Yeah.
So
potentially we'll see if that could be a brought back up again. Gen 9 the sequel, in a sense.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Overall, I think the perfect stance that we have upon this Pokemon Power situation, we'll see what happens, but at the same time, I feel like Pokemon has already damaged its reputation for being inconsistent with the ideals.
Yeah.
Let's just hope a few time though they get to finally clear up some negotiations, and at least we can finally settle upon the idea that Gen 10 is coming out rather than the idea that Pokemon is damaged.
Right.
Let's just hope. Anyways, with that said, I think we can move on to the next topic, where we talk about Charles Dickens. Sort of.
Yeah.
Great Expectations. Not really the book per se, but I've had this kind of interesting thought where, I think we may or may not have discussed this before, but I think we want to talk about it in a bigger extent, especially when we look at games that really got hit badly because of, as we mentioned, Great Expectations.
Yeah, so this is kind of in relation to GTA 6, set to finally releasing November of this year, and people have been waiting for this game for over a decade at this point, and it's so hotly anticipated that a lot of games that are releasing in the latter half of this year that maybe would have been saved for November are being released in September, and so there's a lot of discussion going around of, oh my gosh, everything is releasing in September.
And there's only one game we saw in the Nintendo Direct where it is being released in November, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, was there?
Yeah, there was one game I remembered. So that's definitely an interesting situation where we're put into, where it's like, okay, will the game deliver? Will it not? Is it? We know that certain people have already had the chance to play that game.
Have some people?
There was one boy in particular. I think it was I don't know, special needs or like a severe illness.
Okay.
That got the chance to play. So apparently there is implication that the game is on development, but it's playable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it'll be kind of funny if, people end up not liking GTA 6, and, they're like, well, I guess this means I can catch up on all the stuff that I had to pass up back in September.
Oh boy.
Um,
Hopefully not, honestly. Granted, as someone who has never played GTA and was very heavily interested in GTA 5 with online with all the people making fun stuff out of it, have fun, wholesome stuff. In GTA 5, it's like, if GTA 6 comes out, it's like, if I can finally play with online friends, that'll be kind of cool to finally do races or any kind of stuff that you never got to do back then.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've had like a passing interest in GTA, and I think I'm not going to open up Steam because it might need to update, and I don't want to do that. I'm pretty sure I own GTA 5, and I played it like for 20 minutes. Like 4 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
That might have been when it was like only a couple bucks or just straight up free for some stretch of time. I might have also gotten it on like Epic Games Store when it was free there. Regardless, I think I own it to some capacity. But yeah, it's hasn't been something that I've really sunk like a considerable amount of time into, but it's still going to be interesting to see like how it all plays out with GTA 6, because expectations are just, it feels like through the roof with GTA 5 releasing 6, like, was it 13 years ago?
It was 13 years ago, 2013 November.
Yeah.
And I remember that because of a Steven vlog.
Yeah. Wow, I forget that game released on PS3 and Xbox 360.
It did.
I forget that it's that old that it released on the first generation of HD consoles. And now we're on consoles that can do 4K, and technically the PS5 can do 8K, but it's like 2 games support that. So
that's very true. Anyways, with all that said about GTA 6, I think the one thing that we've come to consensus is that, as you mentioned, expectations are high, and no surprise considering that it's an open world game where, I mean, okay, this probably, I hope I didn't insult anybody when I say this, it's almost like mature Sims.
How is it like The Sims?
Like, you go through life but you do more mature stuff rather than, the like almost wholesome family stuff.
I guess.
I mean, as I said, I apologize if this is inaccurate. I'm insulting some people when it comes to Sims, but that's kind of how I view it.
I don't think you're insulting anyone. It's just kind of like a more off-the-wall comparison.
I mean, how else you would compare it to? Because I can't compare it to Pokemon.
I mean, sure, but like, I suppose in both games you can kill people. It's just in The Sims, it's as easy as just removing the ladder from a pool full of people.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to be more creative with how you do it in The Sims, I guess.
No comment. Anyways, the all seriousness. The big now thing we want to talk about is like, just as how GTA 6 definitely has like, all the hype all around it and may not deliver, but and people are disappointed on this stuff. I do want to actually think about the other games. I actually thought about other games that also got hit badly by great expectations. One of which, and I think you'll be surprised, is No Man's Sky, at least at the beginning stages of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, No Man's Sky was, it seemed like universally panned. Was it again something I should have looked into, like specifically why people didn't like it.
It was like plain, it was like boring or something. It's too simple mechanics, something like that. If I remember correctly.
Just like not enough going on. That sounds familiar, yeah.
And then what happened last year? Advertisement after advertisement after advertisement of No Man's Sky again, where they say, you know what, we have done updates, we have done extra stuff. We're now actually a good and expensive game that you can sink your teeth into. And lo and behold, it delivered finally. Granted, it took them like many years, but at least they delivered.
Yeah, I actually remember, like, I think, like, back in 2019 or 2018, even, my, oldest brother had it on, PlayStation 4, and, was showing me, some stuff in it, and even let me play, like, for a while. It's like, okay, yeah, this does seem like decently enjoyable. Not exactly my kind of game, but okay, yeah, I can see why people enjoy it now. When did it initially release? 2016. Okay, yeah, so I played it a couple years after it released.
2016?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel old.
Right?
What?
10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago. It'll be its 10-year anniversary, August 9th.
Wait, on Singapore's National Day? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's, for those wondering, our National Day is our Independence Day, so and ours is on August 9th, not July 4th. So that's kind of crazy, actually.
Nice.
Anyways,
yeah,
man. I mean, to be fair though, when you have a game that is like as open world as it is, like you would expect like gameplay that lives up to the fact that you can be open world, and I guess back then they didn't deliver as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it just popped in my head that, didn't people have, like, similar, feelings towards, like, Starfield? And how it felt like eventually just, or just, like, the planet generation just wasn't interesting, enough, but, like, they just haven't done anything with Starfield.
You will be correct.
I'm pretty sure.
You'll be correct. That was actually one game I skipped while I was looking up a list.
Yeah, so it's like, started out similarly to No Man's Sky, but No Man's Sky actually, like, took the time and extra resources to, like, improve, whereas Starfield, to my knowledge at least, has kind of just been, like, stagnant. Yeah.
How can I compare this to? Two people building their houses on sand, and one decided to finally put rocks underneath.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe the comparison between those two games now.
Right. Yeah, one person was like, oh, wait. We need to actually, like, think about this more and put more effort into it. So
that's kind of, yeah. It was actually one game that I left out on my list. I was like, I don't really need to discuss too much about it, but it's good that you brought it back up because, admittedly, that also is a game that suffered around, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, didn't do anything about it. Speaking of games that didn't do anything about it, Fallout 76.
Yeah.
A game that was supposed to be a Fallout multiplayer kind of thing, and guess what?
Yeah.
Not much to speak of as of fun multiplayer capabilities. Like there's
Yeah.
simple mechanics, and then there's boring mechanics,
Yeah.
and that's the best way to describe Fallout 76.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm again looking this up just to refresh myself. Why is it bad? Okay, so also just yeah, lots of bugs and just general instability. So
Like a gas station. Oh wait,
yeah.
76 gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you know where I was going with that.
Mediocre gameplay, bad monetization, never-ending nightmare loop of radiant quests. Okay. Feels unpleasant for me to play. Wow, okay.
I almost want to like look up a full playthrough, like 100% playthrough of Fallout 76, and see the horrors that you would have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there are many when you talk about Fallout 76.
Yeah. That game specifically, it feels like it's become enough of like a punch line that I kind of forgot, like, okay, wait, why is this game bad again? Or why do people not like it, rather? So.
Almost, yeah.
Although, looks like some people at least, were just judging from this one Reddit post, feels like there's been a lot of big improvements since I last played. So I guess maybe they did make improvements. It's just, it became enough of a punchline to where I guess maybe those improvements were not as talked about, possibly.
I think the bigger thing as well, when you think about another thing besides the fact it was Fallout multiplayer, it was also the fact that before that, didn't Fallout 4 come out?
Yeah.
Like Fallout 76, if I'm saying, was like around the late 2010s. Fallout 4 was 2015.
Yes.
So, I mean, that game was spectacular and very expensive at that. And I know that from watching a bit of Steven Play's playthrough. But when you take that and think about what happened with Fallout 76, that is also another dagger that occurred when it came to having great expectations. You think that Fallout 4 was great, and do you think the next game will be great? No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of a reason why they brought Fallout 4 to the Switch 2 before Fallout 76.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That just sums up their time with 76. Like, you know what, yeah, we're gonna ignore that as if it never happened. Almost.
Yeah. It's kind of... I've kind of been thinking, like, do I want to jump into the Fallout series with 4 if I find the game on, like, a good deal on the Switch 2?
Just like that one show that said, your choice is yours and yours alone.
Oh yeah, Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a 64 gigabyte game. It just barely too big to actually fit on a cartridge, so it is on a game key card, but still, it's when a game has like released on the Switch, I always it feels like something that I want to like get into and like actually like play through, but I don't know, with like a big open world game like that, it's like, do I want to sink, or do I want to like commit to this for a while? It's definitely one of those games that's like a big commitment.
Yeah. I think the one reason why I did play Scarlet Valley is because even though it was open world to an extent, it was something I was familiar with. So when you think about Fallout 4 and potentially the unfamiliarity of it, it just compounds to the situation of, do I really want to make a commitment?
Yeah, and like ostensibly learn a whole new game genre,
True.
more or less.
Yeah.
Because once you're familiar with like a game from a particular genre or like style of play, it's easier then to like get into games in like a similar vein, I guess. Now that I think about it, I do have Fallout 3 on Steam. Because I think it was on sale for like $5, and I had just gotten the Steam Deck like a month before that, and so I was just like buying up extra games that happened to have been on sale. And I know at least 2 of my older brothers have played through Fallout 3. And one of them I did watch a little bit, but that was back on a PS3. So that was forever ago. But anyways,
I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, I've seen playthroughs of it, but for me, it's not my cup of tea. Again, I'm just not great at FPS games.
mm-hmm.
So it's a bit tricky from my end. Anyways, next one I'll talk about is Mass Effect Andromeda. Mass Effect, of course, a very popular action series, but unfortunately with Andromeda, let's just say, almost feels like the Sonic 06 of Mass Effect. A troubled development cycle within the company. There was a rushed launch itself. Rushed sounds about right when you think of Sonic 06. And then more importantly, all the expectations behind Mass Effect. I mean, when you think of the previous games, especially Mass Effect 2, if I'm not mistaken, that was highly praised.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when Andromeda came out, yeah, unfortunate that it just got a very big knock down to real life.
Yeah.
I think it's also they was using a different source engine, a game engine, if I remember correctly, so they had to adapt to it again. All that stuff. And unfortunately, just they weren't able to manage to finish it in time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kinda sorta know about Mass Effect. I haven't looked too much into like the gameplay specifically. I know a lot of it is like making decisions in dialogue. And like the decisions that you make impact the outcome of like the story.
I believe so, yes.
So yeah, action role playing. Okay. Yeah, I feel like in that sense, I don't really have that much to say specifically about Andromeda, but
I mean, yeah, as I said, great expectations, unfortunate ending for a game, so that is one of them. Another one of which, and I think we both know aware of this, Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, which, yeah, it initially released in a very unfinished state, especially if you tried playing at release on a standard PS4. Apparently that was just an absolutely terrible experience, to the point where didn't it have to get pulled from the PlayStation Store on PS4?
Correct.
Yeah.
It is one of the few games that I remembered was pulled away from the shelf. That's big, knowing that that's one of the few games I know, as someone who doesn't really pay attention to game news.
Mm-hmm. But Cyberpunk was one of those instances where, yeah, sure, it released in a state that wasn't great and people didn't really like it, but these days it's almost like the complete opposite because they fixed everything that was like wrong technically with the game, to the point where people were ecstatic about the game coming to Switch 2, in like the lead up to the console's launch of like holy crap, like Cyberpunk is coming to this. I guess for one because it's like a good like technical showcase, because it is like still a demanding game, but also like I guess once all the issues were ironed out, people were able to more like I guess clearly like appreciate like what the game was.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where around December of last year on the Switch 2 eShop, CD Projekt Red unintentionally gave the digital version of Cyberpunk a massive discount, because the version on Switch 2 is like the base game plus the Phantom Liberty DLC, all for $70.
Huh.
But they discounted it down to $17.
Wow.
And it was only live for a handful of hours, and a number of people, including myself, got the game for that price.
Dang.
So that's just sitting in my library. It's not actually installed on my system right now because it is a big game.
Shit, gee, I wonder why.
Mm-hmm. But eventually, I do want to like actually sit down and give it a proper go. That'll probably be later this year if I do decide to do that, because I'm finishing up with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, and next week Star Fox comes out. I have that pre-ordered, and then Rhythm Heaven Groove comes out. I have that pre-ordered. I don't know if I'm going to like fully like immediately try to complete Star Fox, if at all. I just want to like play it and experience it. I'm not going to push myself to complete that. I will probably complete Rhythm Heaven. But then later in July, I'm almost undoubtedly going to complete Splatoon Raiders.
Oh, yes.
Suffice it to say, my summer is going to be full, and it will probably lighten up into the fall because I know I'm very likely going to get Switch Sports Resort in October. And then also, whenever the Ocarina of Time remake is coming out, I'm getting that. But there's probably going to end up... There's going to be some kind of lull at some point where I finally sit down and give that game a shot. So, I know that the game is very much so M-rated, so, yeah, it'll probably be the most M-rated game that I have played yet, probably. Because, like, I've played through Danganronpa, like, the trilogy, and I've played the first entry in the Zero Escape series. I think that's also M-rated. But some of the stuff that I've heard that happens, like, within the first hour or two of gameplay in Cyberpunk is like, okay. Whoa.
Drop yourself in.
Yeah, I might need to strategically play the game in handheld mode, um, instead of on a TV. So, oh, it'll be interesting.
Enjoy, and hopefully, I mean, then you can see like now it live up to the hype that it was supposed to have back then. Although speaking of,
Mhm.
although on the flip side, unfortunately for the Watch Dogs, not the case. Especially when you
Yeah.
think about how much they were competing against. When you think of Watch Dogs 1, for those wondering, that's the game that we're discussing. When you think about Watch Dogs 1, the problem with it is the fact when it had its reveal in 2012 through E3, it was highly anticipated right off the gate. Like there was so much that was proclaimed, a next gen experience, saying that there's like a new kind of experience that people want to have experience. And you gotta remember that in 2014, which was when the game released, that was the time when I think it was like, what was it? The PS4 came out.
Yes, PS4, Xbox One,
Yeah,
and
so there was
Wii U. Cause didn't the game come to Wii U?
Watch Dogs for Wii U. Did they?
I think so.
I mean, want to say yes, but yeah, people were like saying that this is gonna be like another very cool experience, but unfortunately,
It is on Wii U.
yeah, and I think us saying Wii U also might imply something else. It did not do as great, especially when they did, not kidding, a massive graphical downgrade.
Yeah, they really uh promised a lot with like what they showed initially, but had to scale it down for the final release.
And when you hype it up that much with all the stuff that you promised and then you don't deliver, yeah, I think that's a very clear cut example of great expectations that did not deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because I think the Watch Dogs series as a whole suffered a lot in each of the games that came out, both 1 and 2, and then Legion to an extent.
Okay. Nice.
At least that's what I'm told. Apparently, there was also some problems with Legion as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how much more you have to say about Watch Dogs, but there was one other game that popped in my head when I was rereading the notes that you sent earlier today. Or when I was rereading them earlier today. Metroid Prime 4.
Oh.
Because it, first of all, like time frame of it being announced to being released was basically the whole lifespan of the Switch.
You're right, yeah.
And it had to restart development, and so people were like, oh man, well, even though it has to restart, that probably means that they're gonna make absolutely sure that it's going to, like, be the greatest Metroid Prime game yet. And then it releases, and I mean, in currently my most recent video, I talk about it. It kind of misses the mark in kind of several key areas. Like, first off, the main hub area of the desert, it's just a giant, like, open, pretty barren environment. Like, they had to put in the Viola motorcycle just to make it playable. It's that big. Yeah, sure, you get some enemies and stuff that pop up, but nothing. It's not as good of a hub world as the Talon Overworld from Metroid Prime 1. But then also just the main areas are all just super straight. Not exactly straight shot, but just very linear in how you navigate the areas. It's not the maze type structure of the original Prime game. I think 2 and 3 are kind of a blend between 1 and 4. I haven't played those yet, but yeah, it also felt like a game that suffered from great expectations.
Didn't it also go through a punchline era as well, where people were like, it will never come out, never come out? And especially when, what was it, Metroid Prime Federation or something like that came out? And
Federation Force,
Federation
yeah.
Force, and then Return of Samus on the 3DS, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
So it's like, all these other games come out, like, wait, hello, where's this talk about Prime 4? Huh? Where? And then when it finally comes out, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I should never have thought of that as a game that suffered from great expectations, because I honestly thought that with such a concept that it was very similar to many other games like Sonic Frontiers, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Splatoon 3 to an extent, like the fact that they talked about a barren era, like land similar to all those games, that it would do well, turns out not, as I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, for reference, I fully completed Prime 4, both like getting every collectible item and doing every possible scan. Basically, I've done everything in that game except doing a hard mode playthrough. I don't know if I'm gonna ever do that, because there are technically a few unlockable art pieces, but I don't know if I care enough to do those. But also, I did fully complete Prime 1, only just getting all the collectibles. I didn't do every possible scan, just because it's my first time with any Prime game. I didn't want to feel like I had to. I just did it when I remembered to. But that Prime 1, first of all, my first Metroid game, period. And to that extent, my first Metroidvania, period. And that was only like 2 years ago. That's an amazing game. So, yeah, sure, Prime 4 did have, like, big shoes to fill in that regard. But still, like, it could have been a better game. But just the fact that we waited so long and it released in the state that it did, like, it just kind of felt deflating.
I understand where you're coming from that.
So.
It's rough. I mean, yeah, and as I mentioned, you mentioned about a very, very good point of, like, a game being a punchline because of how much it was, like, memed or joked upon about, like, its release, and then all of a sudden, yeah, now, and dare say that Metroid Prime 4 might be the best and closest representation of the GTA 6 situation.
Possibly.
The question becomes,
yeah.
Will it face the same fate, or will it actually deliver?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to picture, like, what if it ends up being that situation of it releases and it's either universally panned or just highly contentious after so many people waited so long. GTA is big enough to where it might cause some kind of shift in the gaming industry. I don't know what that would be, but I just feel like if it doesn't live up to the expectations, it's going to cause some kind of shift to maybe games with shorter development times that are perhaps not as, like, developmentally, or as not as like don't require as much time to develop because of like I think I've seen from like some the trailers that they've put out that it is like, well, of course it's meant to like be satire of like Americana, so it's meant to feel realistic, so they've really been leaning into that with like the level of visual fidelity.
Yeah.
But that in and of itself has got to take so much effort and resources. Not even actually making all the gameplay mechanics, just making it look realistic. Yeah, I know, it's gonna be interesting.
In due time it will. Now, on the flip side of all this, I did also want to at least bring some light to games that had low expectations, but end up, boy, they delivered in ways that no one even could comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, it was, felt like a game that, maybe not, like, released to no fanfare, just, like, released to a smaller amount, but through word of mouth, people were like, oh, this is, like, really good and, like, new and, like, different, gameplay style and structure. This was, like, one of the games that I played in the first couple months of owning the Steam Deck. Didn't roll credits, but I played several hours of it, and it is a very, very good game from what I've played.
People have compared it well to being a whimsical / more PG version of Devil May Cry or like Bayonetta. But we, of course, with rhythm involved as well, as I heard.
Yes, your attacks and like your button inputs ideally have to be in time with the music. So I remember it just feeling strange at first because like your typical inclination would be like run up to an enemy and just like start mashing the attack button, but like no, you cannot do that. You have to time your inputs to the music, so like it's not one of those games that you can just kind of like have something playing in the background. You kind of have to be more locked in, like audio wise, and possibly have headphones and not play the game with Bluetooth headphones that have latency. Yeah, it's...
Think about it, is Devil May Cry the first game that came out between the three? I'm thinking of DMC, Bayonetta, and Hi-Fi Rush, because Hi-Fi Rush definitely came out last. Didn't DMC come out before Bayonetta?
Devil May Cry. The original Devil May Cry, 2001.
Okay. So let me get this straight. So DMC was the original, Bayonetta over-sexualized it, Hi-Fi Rush made it PG. Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to make the joke straight away because, admittedly, as someone has talked about over-sexualizing characters on the podcast up here, it stands the reason why I wanted to bring that up about Bayonetta because, oh my goodness.
Yeah, for reference, the first Bayonetta released in October of 2009.
Yeah.
So, and technically the latest release was the spin-off,
correct,
Bayonetta Origins Cereza and the Lost Demon. So, yeah, before that, Bayonetta 3 released in 2022. So that's another series that like I've wanted to try and like play through. It's just not been a priority whatsoever.
Nah, understandably. But that said, again, I just want to make that joke real quick about, I mean, not trying to knock anything on DMC or Bayonetta by any means. It's just funny when I think of those three games, when they started and then where it ended.
Right.
With that said, though, I mean, when you have a game that can be comparable to some of the greats, that's a big deal. And I think Hi-Fi Rush definitely proved that you don't need to look great just to be great.
Yeah, as long as you have like a fun and interesting gameplay gimmick, and with that it's kind of taking a more established like gameplay structure and adding like an extra twist to it. That I think that's why it was like so new and fresh when it released.
Honestly, Hi-Fi Rush kind of sounds similar like, what was it again? Jet Set Radio?
Yeah, kind of similar vibes. It's just that with Jet Set Radio, you're not so much like the focus isn't so much on combat. Technically there is, sort of kind of not really, but it's more so you're just going around and like graffitiing different parts of like the area and trying to not get caught.
Pretty much. I just wanted to comment about how when I think of Hi-Fi Rush, I was like, Jet Set Radio? Because it like there's just some sort of vibe when you think of those kind of games.
Yeah. It also kind of extends to Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, which is a game I have played through, and it's like kind of like inspired a lot by Jet Set Radio. That is also a very, very good game.
As I've heard many a time. Not only from you, but also from others outside. They really gave it high praise.
Oh yeah, it's really good. I remember, I know I have the original Jet Set Radio on Steam, and I played that for a little bit. For whatever reason, I was just never able to, like, stick with it, but the changes that they made in Bomb Rush were, kind of the difference in, like, making that more of a, I guess, enticing experience. I was just able to stick with it more.
That's cool.
So,
That's awesome. Alright. Next one on the list that I will talk about is a game that actually I wanted to try for quite some time, and it's currently on sale on Steam at the moment because of someone's anniversary. Sonic Frontiers. Now, this one I can very understand the low expectations. You think about Sonic and 3D. In the yesteryears, they really have not gelled well, especially when you look at Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Yes, I know Sonic Mania is 2D, but the problem with it is the fact that it did superbly well compared to Sonic Forces that was mostly considered a flop. It was mostly considered a mediocre game rather than a bad game, I dare say.
okay.
Like I said, it was fine, but it was like almost simplistic to an extent, and like even though there was the ability to make your own character, it was kind of frowned upon for, like, you know, kind of repetitiveness, if I remember correctly. However, flash forward to Sonic Frontiers, and you talk about a game that not only was trying to follow the trend of a ruined area, but an open world, but you're talking about a game that also actually delivered? I mean, even I was surprised. I was like, wait, you're telling me Sonic Frontiers is a good game? What?
Yeah.
In the words of
Yeah,
Claire, though. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think I played a bit of the demo on Switch, and yeah, it was at the very least a decent game, but I mean that was some time ago that I played the demo. So
There was more than this, like the gameplay as well. That was quite fun. I mean, you got to admit though, in an open world kind of game where you can actually run fast and be almost like free in terms of movement, I think that fits very perfectly for Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the idea that, you know, you're able to be supersonic as well very often, because as I heard, that's apparently the gameplay in Sonic Frontiers. You're actually becoming supersonic a lot in that game,
Okay.
and battling all these like crazy creatures, all that stuff. That's the extent of what I know. The other extent that I know is also the music as well. It kind of expands with every Chaos Emerald you grab.
Okay.
So there's kind of like sense of progression you feel so in the game, even though it does seem so open world.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music, more than just that, is also the soundtrack. People have always, I think, I'm sure, even though you have not played the game that as much, that you know about the song "Undefeatable," right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that is highly considered one of the best songs made in the Sonic franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say, though, however, and I think you may not know this, that is literally the music for the very first boss of the game.
Okay.
When you look at the title, it's like, oh, final boss kind of vibes. No, it's the first boss. Even I was shocked, honestly, myself. I was like, what? You told me that this song that sounds so final boss-ish is a first boss music.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But that's just how much the music, apparently as I heard, really stood up well to a game that was, as I said, very different compared to its 3D counterparts.
Right. Sorry, as you've been talking about this, I popped on my head, it's like, why have I heard about Frontiers more recently? It's because apparently, within the past week, there's leaks of a Switch 2 version being released soon.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
In the form of someone on Twitter posting a screenshot in the back, I'm assuming the back rooms of a Walmart with like the physical version. Well, it's a game key card, but
Rooms of a Walmart.
Yeah.
Sorry, that term just makes me giggle.
Yeah, in the back rooms, if you will.
Exactly. That's why I'm like. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk more about back rooms in due time. I feel like that would be a podcast for myself in due time, because boy, now that the game is done and the progression, I've seen the progression of that game throughout. I might want to talk about that with a few friends of mine. Back to Sonic Frontiers, though, it definitely seems as though it's thriving well, and you never, I mean, who would have thought that they finally understood 3D and Sonic better? But granted, I know it's a different concept, but boy, it works well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like every 3D game was bad. You have Sonic Generations that mixed 2D and 3D. You have Sonic Unleashed, which was the very first game in a while to implement the 2.5D game perspective, where the game shifts in between 2D and 3D now and then as you play.
Yeah.
So that was also quite fun to play through, and even for me, as I said, my all-time favorite game. And then, of course, when you look at Sonic Adventure 2, yes, Sonic Adventure 2 may not have been as popular as of recently, but back then, the hype was definitely strong with that game.
Right. Oh, sorry, I remembered, it's like, oh yeah, isn't there a Backrooms movie? And yeah, there is, and it's still still showing at my local theater. Maybe if I have time here soon, I can go and see it. Completely unrelated.
That's all right. But yeah, honestly, for me, I say Sonic Frontiers is definitely a big winner of low expectations because, I mean, you don't expect a certain 3D game to do well. No, this time they did good, and they did a concept that worked for Sonic. Before,
Right.
before once Sonic the Hedgehog 4, the movie comes out, that they reference that to an extent,
Yeah.
that'll be kind of cool. Granted, another side tangent on my end. In before, considering the relationship both of these hedgehogs have, that they actually do a Super Mario Galaxy and throw a bombshell. Just as how we now found out that Peach and Rosalina are technically sisters. I actually know that,
Yep.
but was what I was wondering, even though I have not watched the movie.
Yep.
In before a bombshell where Sonic and Amy get married,
Oh, wow.
that would just be the biggest bombshell ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, granted, we will probably see, like, some extent of Sonic and Amy probably be, like, fighting against each other to an extent, whether it be out of irritants or whether it be out of seriousness. Oh, granted, yeah, Metal Sonic is also a thing, now that I think about it.
Okay.
Well, again, I should say, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not exactly well versed in everything Sonic, so it's like, again, I don't have too much to say.
I mean, granted,
But-
I was just going off a tangent, so you're fine.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I did see the very first Sonic movie in theaters. I think that was the last movie that I saw before everything locked down because of COVID.
Yeah. Man, to
Um,
think that we went off on a tangent like that, a very good video game movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Yeah, is
oh, go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, the couple like 2-3 months before things happened in 2020, I ended up doing a lot of stuff. Like, before everything locked down, I ended up doing a lot of stuff that, like, I was not able to do for the rest of that year. Like, I went to a movie theater, I went to a water park for an evening, because it was, I think, someone's birthday. Someone from my friend group's birthday. We went to a water park, and then, did several road trips as well, like weekend trips. Just a lot of stuff that, like, well, road trips specifically to, like, be around other people. So I ended up doing a lot of stuff beforehand that, like, good thing I did it when I did, because then no one was really able to. So, complete side tangent.
I mean, to be fair, I think we've done 3 of them in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
One last game I want to talk about. I'm not too sure if you have extras to talk about later, Jazak, but another game that had low expectations but turned out to be great was mostly just because the world shut down, admittedly.
Yeah, I mean, kind of funny that I went on that tangent that ended up actually kind of tying into this one because of 2020.
Yeah.
Among Us.
Exactly. I know that sounds kind of sus, but it's kind of true. It really got boosted up the charts of being a good game because, well, just people couldn't go out.
Yeah, and Among Us didn't release in 2020. It released in 2018, but wasn't it like some groups of streamers found out about the game, started playing it on stream, and like their viewers were interested in it, and then it just became like a wave of like more and more streamers and content creators started to like play it during
exactly. I'll be right back.
2020 and just became like a massive phenomenon. So it was kind of funny because that ended up happening soon after Fall Guys released. those two, like Among Us and Fall Guys, are kind of similar, just in the sense of like you're controlling a character that is mostly just a colored blob. So it's kind of funny that it had that similarity, but then like completely different genres. So
I think a bigger thing is I think everyone is very familiar with like wolf. Like, there's a wolf like this eating
werewolf.
Werewolf, thank you.
Yeah. Werewolf, in like my social circles growing up, we specifically played it under the name of Mafia.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, but like similar idea anyways, but like with that it's just pure discussion and talking, and there's really like there's really no good way to actually suss out who the killers are. Whereas with Among Us, because you have the tasks to do around the whatever ship or just area, that creates extra levels of either some people like having accountability, or like if someone says one thing and other people say other things, then it's like, oh, that person's what they were saying doesn't line up with the rest of the group, so there is some evidence basically that you can work with. Whereas like in-person social deduction games like that, there really isn't. That being said, I have my own personal issues with Among Us. That's for a whole other discussion.
I feel like there's some who definitely have way too many begrudging reticence with Among Us.
Yeah, to the point where I have been heavily considering making a scripted video about social deduction games as a whole, and why I personally don't like them.
I see where you're coming from with this.
Yeah, similar kind of video to the one that I made about RPGs. So, but there are some social deduction games that I do enjoy, namely Jackbox's Push the Button.
Yeah.
But I'll get into why probably in that video, if and when I do end up making it.
Yeah.
Suffice it to say, Among Us released to like middling success, to the point where weren't they making a sequel? But because Among Us, like the first game, got so popular during 2020 that they scrapped development or stopped development on Among Us 2 to just like essentially backport a lot of that work to Among Us.
And I don't know about that, but considering that they started adding new roles in Among Us, part of me wants to believe that and say that the extra roles that were added was part of their Among Us 2 project.
Yeah.
It's very possible that that was supposed to be the case.
Yeah, because like ever since then the game has gotten updates here and there.
Why?
So yeah.
Why? Sorry.
Yeah, that was.
I was like, why make a new toy when that toy, when the original toy you make can be upgraded so many times? And granted, geez, it has gone through so many upgrades. I think when you look at my Among Us videos, you'll realize that how much it has expanded from like the very small interface that back then to where it is now. And then all of a sudden we have music in Among Us. Like, what?
Yeah. So, I think maybe like eventually some people started being disappointed in Among Us that, like, oh, they're not doing enough to, like, keep people's interest in the game. I remember that kind of being a discussion point back then, but, like, there's only so much that structure of game can offer that, like, if you're feeling that about Among Us, you have to also play other games. It shouldn't be like the one game that someone is always playing, I feel.
I see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, it's just like eventually it felt like some people were disappointed in the game, of like, just in the sense of what they wanted the game to be instead of like what the game was. But like just the scope of the game to begin with is like, it's a smaller budget title, realistically.
Our next topic: games constricted by what do you call that? Monolingualism. I don't know what word I would use in this situation.
Yeah, but it's not like something like No Man's Sky or whatever that are made by like larger studios that have that extra time and resources to pump into a game. Like, Among Us is made by a smaller development team that is more indie.
Yeah, and look where they are now.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it's great how far Among Us has still been able to go.
So much with so little.
Right.
Crazy.
So,
but any other games you could think of that benefited from low expectations, in your opinion?
You'd have to like give me a good minute to really think about this.
No worries. I'm not expecting much. I just realized I contradicted myself. But I know, in all seriousness, overall, I think the sense is that sometimes it's just better to not expect so much. I mean, granted, we have talked about this with Nintendo Directs as well, I think, in the past. It's similar with games, I feel like. And let's just hope that, considering this unfortunately forced expectations that a lot of us have with GTA 6, that it actually delivers. Otherwise, as you mentioned, this could really shake up the game market.
Right. Yeah. Also, I couldn't think of like any other games specifically. I did think about that like earlier when I was going over the notes again. It's like still nothing was really coming to mind specifically about games that benefited from low expectations.
I would want to say Luigi's Mansion, but I feel like nah.
Even then, like back then, people didn't like it because it wasn't a 3D Mario. But I think like these days people look at Luigi's Mansion a lot more in like positive light, similarly to how Wind Waker was kind of contentious back when it released, but these days people are clamoring for the Wii U port of the game to come to Switch 2, which is kind of funny because the original game is technically, playable through Switch Online. Then again, there's an Ocarina of Time remake coming out, but you can already play the original Ocarina of Time on Switch.
Yeah, why does part of me feel as though that is a bit too much?
What do you mean?
Like, it's just the fact that games are being released like again and again. But again, it's alright to face both the original and also a remake. Let's just hope that remake delivers, though.
Yeah, I feel like this has been the thing that I keep saying this episode, but it's going to be interesting how that'll play out. Like, it's probably not going to be as faithful as the 3DS version, I would imagine. They're probably going to, I feel like, do some things like differently, maybe reimagine some parts to actually make it feel like this remake is warranted, I guess.
Yeah, in due time we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, though, as I said, the overall consensus, like, sometimes it's just better to have not as much expectations. And unfortunately, with GTA 6, it's just going to be a phase of being forced, and hopefully it might be one of the last few times we see this much hype over one game. I feel like it's the last game, honestly, now that I think about it, that we're seeing that much hype over. Because Metro Prime 4 is finally out.
Silk Song
Hollow Knight, yes, is finally out. I think this is probably one of the last few games we're seeing this much hype over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because let me think about this. Mario has nothing really planned, right? Over the next few months.
What series?
Mario.
Yeah, there's currently no new Mario games announced.
Sonic?
Whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, not that I know of for Sonic.
That's why it's like, this is probably one of the few times that's like, this is going to be like a case of like, finally we could be in a situation where we have no games to look forward to or something. That would be interesting to see how the internet reacts to that.
Yeah, I guess there is one game that, despite it being delayed and like released later than it was intended to, it ended up being a massive success. Not exactly that it had low expectations, but just that it took longer than anticipated, and was more or less universally praised as Breath of the Wild.
Wait, that game was delayed?
Yeah, it was originally meant to release on Wii U like a couple years sooner, but they not in the same state that it released in. They were still like retooling it and really trying to figure out what they actually wanted the game structure to be like. So, and then kind of a similar thing with Tears of the Kingdom. That was meant to release sooner, but they were like, no, we need extra time to really fine-tune things, and that game is a little more contentious because, I mean, it's a follow-up to one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, so it was gonna be more contentious inherently. But still, I think overall, people like Tears of the Kingdom. It's just because so much of the structure is based on Breath of the Wild. For me, at least, it wasn't as impactful of an experience. It was just the experience that I had a couple years ago, but just more like refined and yeah.
Potentially refined in parentheses, maybe, to some people?
Yeah, it felt like there was perhaps a bit too much, I guess you could call it, filler content, mostly in regards to the depths.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did activate all the light routes in the depths, but that was really the extent of what I did. Outside of like any story related stuff, like I wasn't in the depths like all that much.
You didn't go in depth in it?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyways, that's probably the closest thing that I can add to that.
Yeah, I can see that. And honestly, for me, I couldn't really think of many other games besides the tree that I suggested. But anyways, that could be it for today's podcast. I'll be honest, there really not much else to talk. Granted, yeah, we definitely have come to consensus of what we think about this Pokemon versus Palworld situation, and of course, really just putting our expectations low at this point. I feel like in life.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there were a lot of expectations going into this most recent Nintendo Direct, which is understandable, but at the same time, like, I know this wasn't part of the conversation, really, but just the recent Nintendo Direct was contentious, and, like, to an extent, I agree with it, but at the same time, like, I have so much that I can still play.
Yeah, that's
regardless.
very true.
And there's still new stuff that they announced that I'm looking forward to, so.
Exactly. And on my end, it's kind of funny how Great Expectations kind of was a story of like one of the sports franchises I follow, and that was Formula One. Because for those wondering, Adrian Newey, which is a legendary car developer, partnered with Fernando Alonso, who is a legendary driver who has a lot of experience. So for Aston Martin, which was the team that they partnered with, there was so much expectation over the car being great, especially with the new regulations. They thought Aston Martin could actually challenge for stuff. No. End of the car was a very shaky green teapot that turned out to be horrific. Just like, how do you feel about driving a car, but you every straight you go to, you keep bumping and going up and down, up and down, up and down? That it's to the point where it hurts your neck.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's
no.
That is what happens when Great Expectations never deliver.